Good afternoon, parents. This instructional video is to help you understand exactly what is AP research and some techniques that you as parents and guardians can use to support your children. This class is the most unique class that your child is going to have in their entire high school career. It's a two-part class. So at this point of the year, this point, your children have passed AP seminar where they learn the fundamentals in writing arguments and researching. In order to qualify for what we call the capstone certificate, you need to have a 3 on the exam from last year from seminar, and you need to get a 3 or better on the exam this year. And the only perk about the certificate compared to other students is when you apply to colleges, there's a little box somewhere along the application process where you could acknowledge that I'm AP Capstone certified as a student. And that just helps colleges understand some course workload and that you're responsible in the fact that you know how to write papers, you know how to search for correct information, and it just puts you a little step above other applicants. Now, there is another way to bring this up another step. If your child gets a 3 or better in 4 additional classes, you'll actually get an AP Capstone diploma. It will be something, I think it's emailed to you. It's an actual diploma that says your child has done all this stuff in AP and they deserve to be acknowledged. And once again, during the application process for colleges, there will be a place where students can basically put, I have the AP Capstone diploma, and it will once again just give them a little edge over other students who are applying. It's going to take all high school. Their entire coursework is about one paper. It's a 4,000 to 5,000 word paper along with a 20-minute presentation in April. That's it. There's no end of course exam. There's no midterms or finals. The one paper is the only thing that gets graded by the AP College Board. The topic of the paper is 100% student choice. So they've already had some summer assignments where they've actually been starting to think about what they want to research, but they won't have to make it a final decision until I think right before Thanksgiving. So once they hit Thanksgiving, their paper should be planned and ready to go for the rest of the winter. As a teacher, I will help your kids kind of figure out what direction they could maybe go in. They may have a broad idea, but push comes to shove, what they're going to put in the 4,000 to 5,000 words is really what they want to write about. So students are going to do one of 3 things with their papers, depending on your child's preference for the topic. Explore a new way of thinking, explain a connection that hasn't been made before, or create something new. And your kids are going to see many, many, many examples of all 3 of these, scored well, scored average, and scored poorly. So they truly understand where the quality that's expected of them to get a 3 or better at the end of the year. So to give you a little idea, from September to November, we're going to perform background research in their chosen topic. This will be the time where they basically look at stuff and say, I want to do something with space travel. And they dig a little bit and they realize, I don't know if there's just enough here for me to know what's going to happen. We've only been traveling to space since the 60s, and there's just not enough information about what I want to do. So I'm going to have to tweak it a little bit. Some of the things that kids are going to work are going to involve investigating people. Maybe they're going to be conducting interviews. Maybe they're going to do case studies, things like that. So anytime we deal with people, we have to make sure that we're treating people ethically. So we're going to talk about the ethics process. We have a board at the school that if their child has to deal with people during their research, maybe they want to investigate something with school shootings, a very sensitive topic. We have to present it to the ethics board for them to review it and make sure that no one is going to sustain emotional harm from the investigation, the research. And then lastly, form research methodology. So your children are going to come up with something really unique in theirs. So let's say if bringing about the school shooting again, they want to look specifically at school shooting and let's say child abuse. Like, is there a connection between people that were child abused to school shooters? Once again, we have the ethics committee to review that, but then they have to pick now, okay, what exactly are you going to do? Are you going to interview people? Or is it going to be surveys, or is it going to be long form interviews where you ask them questions about their own experiences? So the students that, your kids are going to look into the different methods for their topic, and everyone's going to be a little bit different. Once we kind of figure out what direction we're going, we fine tune the details. From December to March, you're going to perform research and analyze data. So you're physically going to conduct your interviews. You're going to look at the experiment, and you're going to analyze the data. That's what the kids are going to do. We're going to give them class time to conduct the interviews, to do the research, to type things up. Consult professional mentors. So if your child is looking at, let's say, for example, gun violence and drug abuse or something along those lines, we're going to let them meet with maybe a local cop in the district who has experience with this, and they'll be able to consult them and say, what are the terminologies that you guys use in the field? In your experience, how often does this happen? So they'll actually have a chance to talk to people in the field of their research to help guide their way. And then lastly, edit and finalize their report. That's what we're doing in the winter. We're giving your kids class time to do all this meat and potato stuff. As long as your child comes into class every day ready to work, they actually shouldn't have homework. They shouldn't need to do this at home because we're giving them enough class time in school to do it from December to March. Now, obviously it comes per student and work ethic plays into this, but your child is a senior. I understand the workload for them, obviously the social emotional learning for things. We're giving them time to get a lot of this done in class. So please encourage your children to take advantage of the work time that we give them. April, the big kahuna. In April, we have spring break. We have probably some sort of testing of some kind. So April is going to be very busy for them. So in April, we're going to prepare and practice our presentations and then submit our official paper to College Board. Once this happens, they're done. As far as College Board is concerned, submitting their paper in April is the big part of it. And obviously their presentations I will grade using a rubric, and there's going to be a panel of people with me to grade their presentations. But once the kids submit their paper to College Board, sigh of relief, go have a party, they're done with the hard stuff. So then what exactly are we going to do after April for the rest of the school year? We're going to tone it down a little bit. I understand your children, they're seniors, they probably have a lot of AP classes. So we're literally going to give them class time to work for other AP subjects. We're also going to have them do projects to help incoming students. So next year's AP Research kids, what can you expect from this class? And then lastly, the most interesting to a lot of people, a lot of parents particularly, the detail that your children go into for their reports is publishable. So there have been kids in other schools who have taken their 4,000 to 5,000 word essay, tweaked it a little bit after revisions and editings, and actually submitted it to journals and local newspapers where they've actually been published. So I actually encourage your children to publish it when it gets to that point. I understand if not everyone wants to go down that road of stress, but it is something that's possible and will definitely be a very interesting way to end your high school career when you could see your name in a magazine. So those are the things that we're going to do in April, May, and June going into the end of the year before they graduate. So this is the question that we're going to walk the fine line, and you're not going to necessarily like all my answers for these questions. How can you as the parents help? Here are some guidelines on what exactly you can do. Keep them on track with timelines, dates, appointments, etc. So you can remind them, hey, April 30th is coming. Where are you with your paper? You could say to them, I think right now, as of now, it's April 13th is going to be their presentation days. April 13th is coming really quick. Are you ready for your presentation? So on and so forth. over the course of a year, we're going to have certain due dates for certain big activities. So for example, a literature review is going to be due in November, and your kids are going to know that. So you could say to them, how's your lit review coming? I know it's due soon. So encouraging them to keep track on things like that. Encouraging them to use resources offered to them. So we're going to have a textbook in this class. It's a digital textbook. We're going to give them a lot of materials in the fall for them to kind of learn what direction they need to go in. So encourage them and say, hey, have you done everything to get you ready for the next step? Have you asked a peer? What do they think? Because their peers are going to be going through the class with them. They know exactly what's going on with all their papers. Encouraging them to work with another person. Hey, why don't you reach out to your friend and have them read your paper, or read a source and see if it's credible. Encourage them with that, because as a teacher, I actually can't tell them if something is credible or not. They need to figure it out for themselves. And then lastly, remind them of the rubric. So your child will have the rubric probably the second week of school. And once they start with the paper, so don't really look at it now in September, October, November, but come December, January, February, touch base with them once a week. Hey, I know you were doing really good on your introduction. How's your methodology section? Because that's part of the rubric. So encourage them to look at the rubric, have them self-assess, and see where they're at. The last thing about this is what you shouldn't do. And basically, these things are what I'm held to as a teacher as well. So I'm asking that you guys don't be an actual mentor for them. So for example, let's say your child wants to do something with 3D printing and they want to 3D print organs. You happen to work in a biomedical lab. There's a conflict of interest there where you cannot be the person that they reach out to. If there's another person in the firm, or maybe it's like a neighbor's friend, that's okay. But they should not be talking to you for industry standard stuff, just to ensure that there's no conflict. Another thing that may be difficult for me to tell you as a parent is I recommend not reading their papers. As a teacher, I am actually not allowed to read their papers until they submit it in April. I'm not allowed to see what their thesis is. I'm not allowed to see how they word their introduction. I know what their methodology is going to be because I'm going to do spot checks. But in terms of what is typed and submitted to College Board, I actually don't read it ahead of time. And when I do read it, I'm only checking for plagiarism to make sure that they're not copying from something else. So it's not going to help you as a parent read their papers and tell them what to do. There's going to be, as I said, a conflict of interest there. It's up to your children to reach out to a peer editor or someone like that to help them fine-tune some of the words about things. As a parent, you could say to them, hey, do you remember something you did in seminar with word choices or perhaps thesis writing? You can say that to them, but reading their paper is not going to help them. They need to figure things out on their own. And this is where also we get a separation between a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. The kids that are very active with their peer editing skills, their word choices, they're more likely to get a 5 because they're spending that time to go above and beyond. But when push comes to shove, you get the same diploma whether you get a 5 or you get a 3. And lastly, don't provide feedback about their content on the PowerPoint presentation. So let's say they sit you down, it's March. Hey, I have my presentation in 2 weeks. Can I sit with you down for 15 minutes and you watch it? You watch it and you see that there's typos all over the screen. You can't tell them about the typos. I can't tell them about the typos. I'm not supposed to. So I encourage that you do that as well. What you can do is say, you could be a little louder. You can record them and say, oh, you were 10 minutes there. You need to be 15 minutes and 5 minutes for questioning. I'm going to give the kids the questions ahead of time that they're going to have. You can ask them some questions. So it's things like that where you can help your child be successful by not giving them the details about what exactly they need to fix. So I hope this video helped. If you have any questions about AP Capstone in general, please don't be afraid to reach out, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.